월요일 오전 6시 36분입니다. 강연TV를 시작하겠습니다. 이번 시간은 구약성경 에스더 2장 1절부터 영어 성경으로 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. After these things, when the rest of King Ahasuerus was appeared, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Susan to place to the house of the woman unto the custody of Heze, the king's Chamberlain, keeper of the woman, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti, and the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Susan, the place, there was a certain Jew whose name was the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kiso, Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Yehoiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for he had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. So it came to pass when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many raiders were gathered together unto Susan, the place, to the custody of Hege, that Esther was brought also into the king's house, to the custody of Hege, keeper of the woman. And the maiden praised him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, which is with such things as belonged to her, and seven maidens which were made to be given her out of the king's house, and he prepared her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the woman. Esther had not shewed her people, nor her kinder, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not shew it. And Mordecai worked every day before the court of the woman's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now, when every maid's turn was come to go in to King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months according to the manner of the woman, for so we are the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit 6 months with the oil of my ear. And 6 months with sweet oils and other things for the purifying of the woman. Then the came every maiden unto the king, and whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the woman unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the woman to the custody of Saasgas, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king, no if the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Hege, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the woman, appointed, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. Was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house, loyal in the 10th month, which is the month in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even as the feast, and he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the kings we are gathered together the second time, then Mordecai said in the king's gate, Esther had not yet showed her kind till the nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her, for as did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains picked then and their song of those which kept the door were lost, and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the king, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when in inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out, therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book about the chronicles before the king. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedah the Gaito, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him, and all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did his reverence. Then the king's servants, which we are in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand down, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw the Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath, and he sought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast bull, that is the Lord, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the handlers of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, Jud's enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, and the people also to do with them as it seems good to thee. Then where the king's scribe was called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's and to the governors that we are over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring. And the letters we are sent by a post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even unto the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for prey. The copy of the writing for commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people that they should be ready against that day. The post went out being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Susan the priest. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Susan was perplexed. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes also, and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and a bitter cry. And he came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. In every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was a great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the king exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther for Hathach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was, and why it was. So Hathach went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which is before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Susan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make a supplication unto him, and to make a request before him for her people. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Hathach, and gave him a commandment unto Mordecai, all the king's servants and the people of the king's province to know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai as the orders. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether hold this thy feast at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed, and who knows whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer, go gather together all the Jews that are present in Susan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went on his way, and this according to all that Esther had commanded him. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house over against the king's house, and the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so when the king saw the king standing in the court that she obtained favor in his sight, and the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king to her, "What wilt do, King Esther, and what is thy request?" It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered answered, "If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him." And then the king said, "Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther has said." So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, "What is thy petition? And it shall be granted to thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom, it shall be performed." Then answered Esther and said, "My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king has said." Then Haman foresaw that the age of evil and with a great heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Sarah, his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said moreover, "Yea, as the king did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself and tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this avails me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." They said Esau, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let carols be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet, and the king pleased Haman, and he caused the carols to be made. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were little before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Big Dana and Teresa to of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servants said unto him, behold, Haman stands in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, whom would the king delight to do honor more than and Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, here a pair be brought, which the king used to wear, and the horse that the king rides upon the crown lawyer, which is set upon his head, and let this bearer and horse be delivered to the hand of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man whither whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, so shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the bearer and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai, that she saw at the king's gate. Let nothing fail, or that thou hast spoken. Then took Haman the bearer and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, so shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. The Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house, mourning and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men, and said his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, people whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the king. And the king said again to Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, king Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom. Then the king answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondman and bondwoman, I had held my tongue, or though the enemy could not counter the king's damage. Then the king Ahaz answered and said unto Esther the king, who is he, and where is he, that dost presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king, and the king king, rising from the banquet above wine in his race, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make a request for his life to Esther the king, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the king also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, build also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king. Stand also in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Haman him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's rest pacified. On that day, did the king also give the house of Haman those enemy unto Esther the king, and Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Gaiter, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter to the Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, "If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces." For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the king, and to Mordecai the Jew, "Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows before he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews, as it likes you, in the king's name, and shall it with the king's ring for the writing which is written in the king's name, and shield with the king's ring, may no man reverse." Then were the king's scribes called it at that time in the third month, that is the month Silvan, on the 23rd day before thereover, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenant, and the deputies, and the rulers of the provinces which are from India unto Ethiopia, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing, and according to their language. And he wrote in the king's Ahasuerus name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post on horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries. Wherein it king granted the Jews which we are in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and the province that would them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for prey. Upon one day in all the provinces of King has also, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar. The copy of the writing for commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that those should be ready against that it avenge themselves on the enemies. So the post that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Susan the place. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in a royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Susan rejoiced and was glad. The Jews hid right and greatness and joy and honor, and in every province and in every city whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and greatness, feast and good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that his Jews had rule over them that hated them. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their heart, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces and the Lydian Nancha and the deputies and the officials of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces, for this man Mordecai waxed great and greater. The Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Susan, the place, the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, and Basan, Dada, and Dalbon, and Asbada, and Burada, and Adalia, and Aridada, and Bama Soda, and Arise, and Aride, and We Sada. The 10 sons of Haman, the 10 of Hamedada, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil later they not their hand. On that day, the number of those that were slain in Susan at the place was brought before the king, and the king said unto the king at Susan, I have slain and destroyed 500 men in Susan at the place, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have in the rest of the king's provinces. Now, what is thy petition, and it shall be granted thee, or what is thy request further, and it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Susan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Susan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that we are in Susan killed them shall together on the 14th day also the months Adar, and slew 300 men at Susan, but on the prey they raid not their hand, but the other Jews that we are in the king's provinces gathered them share together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 70 and 5,000, but they raid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Susan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same day rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending for sending portion one to another. And the Lord wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the kings Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly. As the days were all in the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and about sending portions one to another, and keep it to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do they had become, and as more had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast a bull the Lord to consume them and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device which he devised against the Jews should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seed and upon all such as so in themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memory of them perish from their seed. As the king, the daughter of Abihail, and Brody the Jew wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim, and he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in the times appointed, according as Mordecai and as the king had in them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed the matters of the fasting and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. And the king has restored tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the actual relation of the greatness of Mordecai were unto the king advanced to him, they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia. And for Mordecai, the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people and speaking peace to all his seed. 에스더 10장 3절까지 읽어서 에스더를 끝까지 모두 다 읽겠습니다. 이번 시간은 여기서 종료하고 다음 시간에는 욥기를 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. 시청해 주셔서 감사합니다. 안녕히 계십시오.